Okay, we're about to call this meeting to order. We're going to give everyone time to find their seats. Okay, we've got a full house this morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're ready to get started. As a reminder, this meeting will be held as a committee of whole. Therefore, all members will vote on each recommended motion. Our system representative colleagues who serve on the standing committees may also vote on matters that usually come before the committee that they serve on. And forgive me, my voice, I had a little bit too much Mardi Gras. There's lots of conversations and stuff going on, so if you can't hear me, just please let me know. So I would like to call this meeting to order. And I'd like to call the January Board of Regents meeting to order. Members, remember that this is being live streamed. So you'll need to turn on your microphones or off if you're speaking, and you'll be recognized when your microphone is turned on. First, we're going to start with the oaths of offices for the new board members. When I call your name, please go down to meet Uma, who's in the pink. Vice Chair Terry Sterling, and Secretary Philip May. Make sure my phone's off. Yes. Congratulations. Next, we'll have our executive committee members, Blake David, Collis Temple III, Regent Judy Williams Brown, and Christian Creed, who is not in attendance today. Okay. Always. Always. Very good. Happy to have you. They need to give you a box, Judy.
Yeah,
where's your box?
Judy? We need a box.
Congratulations. Okay, we would like to welcome our new members. Oh, wait. Am I out of order? Okay, and to our two reappointed members, David Aubrey and Darren Meir. And then we'll do new members last, and their guest. And note to guest, we invite you to come take pictures with your new member also. Oh, right. Okay. Congratulations. And we'll get our new members ready. Now, our new members will be sworn in one at a time. We will start with Ted Glazer III, then follow up with Dallas Hickson, and last but not least, Christy Orr Reeves. So you may go down and meet Uma in the pink coat. Congratulations. Next, we will have Regent Dallas Hickson. Congratulations. Okay, now we'll have Regent Christy Oliver Reeves. Congratulations. And to give our guests a little background, Regent Glazer has got he's got a background in agriculture, which is great. We're an ag state, so we're happy to have him represent us. Regent Dallas Hickson is a businessman and has been for a long time, and a great member to our board as well. And Christy Oliver Reeves rounds us out with some healthcare knowledge. She works for Ochsner, which we greatly need, along with Dr. Shamea. So I think we've got just about everybody represented. We're happy to kick off the new year and get a lot done. So congratulations to all of our new members. We will now move on to roll call. Doreen, will you please call the roll?
Regent Aubrey.
Present.
Regent Cordell.
Present.
Regent Creed. Regent David. Regent Finley. Regent Glazer. Regent Hickson. Regent May. Regent Meir. Regent Orr. Regent Pryor. Regent Reeves. Regent Shamia. Regent Sterling.
Here.
Regent Temple.
Here.
Regent Williams-Brown. The LCTCS system. LSU system. Southern system. UL system. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Doreen. Moving on to our next item, the ratification of committee assignments for 2025. Members, I have updated your committee assignments for this year. Please review the assignments in your packets. I certainly appreciate all of you who serve, and especially those who have agreed to serve as chairs and vice chairs for this year. Do I have any questions? Hearing no questions, can I get a motion to ratify the 2025 committee assignments?
So moved.
Regent Sterling, seconded by Regent May. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, motion passes. The assignments will be updated on all relevant board materials and will be in effect for our next board meeting in March. Next up is public comments. Are there any public comments
No,
today?
ma'am.
None?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll ask for any additional public comments under other business. Members, you received a copy of the December 11th, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Regent Aubrey, seconded. Second. Regent Temple. Any discussions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up is the revision of the bylaws for the internal operation and the transactional business for the Board of Regents. General Counsel Uma will lead us through this item. Uma, the floor is yours.
Good morning. This is a fairly simple and straightforward amendment to the bylaws. Under the current bylaws, the nominating committee brings to the board its recommendation for an appointment to the nominating committee brings to the full board its recommendation for an appointment to the Proprietary School Advisory Commission. And the nominating committee, as you know, meets in December. Under the law, the Proprietary School Advisory Commission members serve a period of 4 years, a term of 4 years. And in the last few years, there have been many off-cycle replacements because of vacancies that have arisen in the past few years. So the appointment schedule to the Advisory Commission is no longer in sync with the nominating committee schedule. So all we propose is deleting the appointment to the Proprietary School Advisory Commission from the nominating committee's duties. It does not change the fact that the full board will still get to approve the appointment. So we will bring the same kind of recommendation to the board for its approval as and when vacancies arise. So this, all it does is take it out of the nominating committee's duties and puts it back to the full board as and when vacancies come up. Staff recommends that you approve the amendment to Rule BPP 4.1, which is the duties of the nominating committee.
Okay, you have been presented with the proposed bylaw language and change. Are there any questions about this language change?
Motion to approve.
Very good. Motion seconded, seconded by Regent Reeves. Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Uma. Our next agenda item is our momentum moment. Each year, Dr. Tristan Denley invites campuses and/or industry partners to share programs that they are implementing that will help Louisiana prosper. This month's presentation will focus on the exciting new Meta project, which is in my backyard, which has been named the country's top economic development project by Business and Facilities. We are delighted to have with us today Osmar Padilla with the Louisiana Workforce Commission and Devin Harrison from LED, who will discuss the project and the anticipated capacity needs that will be required to implement the new Meta AI data center in Richland Parish. Mr. Padilla and Mr. Harrison, the floor is yours. And Tristan.
Well, thanks so much. So I did want to pass on Osmar's regrets. He had a family emergency today, and so was not able to join us. But we are joined by Mr. Harrison here from LED, and I know that our board members will be delighted to hear ways in which we can understand the ongoing needs for capacity across the state for the Meta project and other projects like it, and then ways that that should inform the kinds of decisions that we make as a board. So, Mr. Harrison, thank you.
First of all, good. Yeah. First off, I'd like to go into just what is the Meta Data Center project for those who may not know. It's essentially Meta. They're the parent company to Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. They're building a state of the art.
Can you pull the mic closer?
Oh, sorry.
Perfect.
State
Thank
of the
you.
art data center is going to be Meta's largest data center that they're going to have in the company, right? And this is going to be located in Richland Parish, and it's going to be on our Franklin Farms site that LED has had for years and years, and it has been very, very difficult to get someone to locate there. So they've chosen to locate in Richland Parish. Is going to be a great, amazing project for the area. They're planning to they've already broken ground in December 2024, right? And they're going to begin operations in 2027. It's a $10 billion capital investment, and that's just from Meta. That's not including Entergy and all the investment that they're going to have in that area. Entergy has been a great partner for this project. They, and speaking with the company, Entergy brought the project to us back in February of last year. That's when they brought us in. And we've worked with Meta the entire time, and they could not sing Entergy's praises more than they did. They've been very responsive, and we could not have landed this project without Philip and his team, their dedication.
Philip, how much did you pay him to say that?
Investment, so about that.
So the project is expected to result in 500 direct new jobs in Richland Parish, and that's 500 direct new jobs. That's also 1,000 indirect jobs, so that's surrounding the jobs that result from the direct jobs, and also 5,000 construction jobs at its peak. Meta's going to begin hiring in 2027 and then ramp up to 500 over time. The construction companies that are going to build the project, the data center campus, it's going to be Turner, DPR Construction, M.A. Mortensen, and career fairs, information fairs will begin this first quarter of 2025 to start looking for trade contractors and workers as well. And some of the construction jobs are general contractors, construction managers, project engineers, health and safety, project controls, pipe fitting, drywalling, and carpentry. So you can see there's a wide array of different types of jobs. And this is just for the construction piece of it, and that's not including the actual operations piece. So the 500 jobs in operations, it's going to be, I'll go through a list of it: site operations, electrical specialists, cable technicians, network engineers, facility operations, mechanical engineers, plumbing and HVAC, and also security around the site. These are jobs that are going to be in Richland Parish, security jobs, and also Meta's going to have a staff of culinary experts, like catering, and they're going to have a cafeteria on site. So these are all jobs that you don't think about when you're saying it's going to be a data center, but there are also, you know, a lot of different jobs that will be on site. And there have been a great partner in saying that we want to make the community better, not just bring the jobs, but they want to be part of the community. They have people down right now that are living in the community right now, making sure we're doing everything that we can to make this as a great place to live and keep building in the future. So some of the education requirements, I know I went through a list of a lot of jobs that will be part of this data center, but you're going to need bachelor's degrees in network engineering, mechanical engineering, facility management, business administration, of course IT as well, as well as other certifications in electrical engineering, plumbing, and a wide array of different types of certifications that we need to commit to building up here in Louisiana so we can serve the company and fill these jobs when needed. All right, so like I said, I just went through a array. I know I'm short on time, so I just went through an array of different types of jobs that we'll need and different education requirements that will be needed for this truly transformational project in Northeast Louisiana. We want to partner with local educational institutions just to make sure we have all the needs that they have coming down the line. That's pretty much what I have. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much. Oh,
Yep.
sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you all for coming today. I know you came down from New Jersey, I believe. This should be transformational for our institutions up in North Louisiana.
Yes.
For ULM and Grambling and their cybersecurity degree we approved a few years ago, and their strong program, and tech for their engineers, and just look forward to, and thank you all thank those that helped make that happen, Mr. May, and all of those, because this is truly sorely needed in North Louisiana and Louisiana, and you couldn't have picked a better place right there on I-20 with the universities that are right there that are willing to help in the goals that you guys need.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regent Reeves.
Thank you. I was just curious if you've identified gaps in any programs or certifications that don't exist today that we'll need to anticipate for those jobs.
I have some at the top of mind, but that's not, we as LED haven't focused on that, so I don't really want to speak to that specifically regarding this project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just a fun fact, at the ribbon cutting, the governor did announce, just to give you guys an idea of how large this facility is, it is 70 football fields big. So just imagine 70 football fields all lined up together. That's how large this project and the footprint for this project is.
Yeah.
And before I ask for any more board questions, let me ask Regent May to also weigh in. He is our president of Energy, so he's got some great knowledge about the project also.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the partnership we had with the state. That the reason the world's largest, most advanced data center is coming to Richland Parish is because of partnership we had with the state of Louisiana. We made the state aware of the opportunity. They dug in and made everything happen. So that's important to know. Also, I want people to know who live in Louisiana. This is akin to, and maybe I exaggerate a little bit, winning gold against Russian judges, right? This cannot be overstated how big of a deal this is for Louisiana. Louisiana has all the ingredients necessary to win, and this is just a really great confirmation of how we win, and we can do it again and again and again. Also want to note that this is the beginning. This is not, okay, we got this project, great. This project also opens investment in that region for ancillary businesses coming in and so forth. The investments that Meta will make along with the state will open the door to other data centers and so forth. And we're already seeing inbound calls about this. And just at a very high level, there was an interest in this region because AWS's announcement to build in Mississippi. And probably the question is, what the heck are they doing in that part of the country? After Meta's announcement in Louisiana, the question now is, why the heck aren't we in Louisiana? So it really is a change in the narrative, an outstanding win for the state of Louisiana, certainly for that part of the state. And I cannot emphasize enough, it's just the beginning.
Great news. Yes. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay. Moving along to our next. Yes, thank you so much for the presentation and for all the good news.
Let me just mention too, the question about gaps in education and needs. We will work obviously with LED, with workforce, with LCTCS, the other systems, as those gaps are identified to fill those. And so while that analysis may not be ready for prime time today, we are certainly at the table in those conversations. So appreciate that very good question. And that's called a mic drop there, Regent May.
That's right. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, reports and recommendations. We'll get started with our audit. First up is Miss Elizabeth Bentley Smith. You may proceed when ready. And while Elizabeth's setting up, I did want to recognize a special guest that we have in the audience today. We have President Genovese from McNeese. Thank you so much for coming today. From Northwestern. I'm sorry, Northwestern. I get too much Mardi Gras. Thank you so much for coming today. We're so happy to have you here. Okay, you may proceed, Elizabeth. Too much.
Today we have representatives from Can't hear you.
Sorry. I did not have that much fun at Mardi Gras. So
Got some cough drops.
That's right. Apologies. This morning for Audit Committee, we have a presentation by Eisner Amper. Kristen Bork and Laura Swallow are here to provide that presentation, and I will turn it over to Kristen.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Our agenda this morning will include an update on our current audit that's in progress over the LUMCON vessel daily rate process. And we will also present a request for a change to the fiscal year audit plan for approval from the Audit Committee. So, got it. Okay. So first we'll cover our update of our assessment of LUMCON's vessel daily rate and that process, those processes. So to date, we have obtained and reviewed relevant available policies and procedures, applicable internal reports, as well as any reports and results from reviews that were conducted by external parties, such as the National Science Foundation. We've conducted on-site interviews and process walkthroughs. We've completed initial testing. We've conducted any needed follow-up interviews and walkthroughs. And our next steps will include completing our testing, providing our draft report to management, and holding a closing meeting with them to discuss our results. And then we'll also then obtain the management's responses to any of our observations that were identified. We'll finalize our report then, and then we plan to present the results of our review and our report to the Audit Committee at the next board meeting. Any questions about our current audit that is in progress? Our next item is to cover our request for a change to the fiscal year 2025 audit plan. So our original audit plan, which was approved by the board, by the audit committee at the board meeting held in September of last year, included the LUMCON daily vessel rate assessment, which we just discussed, and then also an assessment of the reorganization of the Regents audit function. During a recent status update meeting that we held with management, it was explained that the Regents audit function was currently experiencing some changes in key personnel. So to allow for time for adjustment to changes and onboarding of new personnel in that area, we felt it would be appropriate to postpone the assessment of this area to a later date. So at this time, we would like to propose a substitute for the audit restructure organization assessment, which would be an assessment of the HR function of Regents, and this would include processes of all programs, including LOSFA and LUMCON, as well as overall governance for HR processes. Do you need to request the approval? I don't have another slide.
So with that, senior staff recommends that the Board of Regents approve Eisner-Amper's updated internal audit plan for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Kristen. Is there a motion to approve this item? Regent David? Regent Williams-Brown. Any discussions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up is finance. Thank you again.
Thank you, ladies.
The Board of Regents is constitutionally tasked with providing for the distribution of funding for our institutions, which is implemented through the funding formula. Staff, in collaboration with our 4 systems, worked for many months to develop the proposal that's about to be delivered today. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but a formula that is aligned to the missions of our 2-year and 4-year institutions. The proposed formula reflects a number of recommendations. It has an increased emphasis on completers in high demand and high reward disciplines. It is focused on student success and ensures that the money follows the students. I appreciate the changes made in this proposed formula as it aligned with our master plan goals. I also very much appreciate the Governor and Commissioner Barra for proposing a no budget cuts in higher education in the upcoming executive budget this year, and for stating that they will propose a budget standstill. Because of the work that this formula has been collaborative between finance and academic officers, we have asked Deputy Commissioner for Finance and Administration, Ms. Elizabeth Bentley Smith, and the Deputy Commissioner for Academic Affairs and Innovation, Dr. Tristan Denley, to present the recommendations. Ms. Bentley Smith and Dr. Denley, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Cordell. So as Chair Cordell just noted, I just wanted to post once again that we are constitutionally tasked with providing a fair and equitable distribution of funding for our institutions, which is implemented as noted through the funding formula. Our work group objective was to collaborate and develop a funding formula that aligns with our master plan goal of 60% of working age adults receiving a high value credential or degree by 2030. The missions of our 2- and 4-year institutions and the workforce needs of our state. This process was not without challenges. We are bound by the amount that we are allocated by the legislature, and at present, higher education is estimated to be underfunded by about $750 million. We recognize also that our institutions have different missions, but their outcomes are the same in getting students completed and becoming members of our state's workforce. Further, the formula works to protect our institutions from any major changes to funding support. So our work was guided by certain principles: that the formula be aligned to our state's workforce needs, that the formula focus on aiding all of our students across the state, and that the formula recognize and reward the different missions of our institutions, and that the formula be driven by clear and concise data. So as Regent Cordell noted, this was a very collaborative process. We started meeting last year in March. We met every 2 to 3 weeks or so. We had representation from all 4 systems at every single work group meeting, as well as the Board of Regents. We had members from finance, academic officers, along with institutional research officers, institutional presidents, chancellors, made up the work group. It was always very highly attended. During these meetings, the feedback we received is what drove the development of our proposed funding formula model. It included that the formula be workforce-centric. It incentivized 2- and 4-year completing students, and that the metrics be driven, once again, by what our institutions look like. So as you can see from the graph above, in the current model, the breakdown of the metrics is between base, cost, and outcomes. Base of 50%, cost of 20%, and outcomes of 30%. Through many discussions, the work group felt it best to transition some of the cost elements to the base and some to outcomes, thereby changing the model to a 2 metrics system, base and outcomes, with base being proposed at 65% and outcomes in the proposed model at 35%. That base amount allows for people like me to plan, to budget plan year to year, and the outcomes metric includes data that supports our student success and progression toward completers. So where did the cost metrics go? You can see in the chart above that we transitioned the cost metrics to both the base and the outcomes metric. The cost of doing business, which includes our facilities, operations and maintenance, support services, all went to the base, as well as the SRAB metric that categorizes post-secondary institutions based on factors like size, role, and program offerings, was also integrated into the base metric. While the different types of course offerings and degree levels, weighted credit hours, and FTE, which we now measure on an annualized basis, recognizing that not all of our students start their coursework in the traditional fall, spring, or summer terms. So those are fully integrated into the momentum and the completers data within the outcomes portion of the model. So, Tristan, you want to take on over?
Thanks so much. Yeah, so really do want members to know that in doing all of this work, we did not take the old formula and just kind of tinker around the edges. We really did take it back to the studs and start again to really rebuild a formula which, as we've said, is not a one-size-fits-all, and is certainly not a formula which is not focused precisely on what it is that the states need, which is the number one point here, that we really wanted to make sure that as we did this work, that we increased the emphasis on making sure that our institutions were supported and rewarded for graduating people with credentials that lead to high demand, high reward occupations. So that was, in many ways, the bulk of what we did to really refocus the weight of the formula in that way. Part of that then was to really make sure that if we're going to be focused on outcomes, focused on graduating students, well then we also need to build support in to make sure that our institutions can support student success along the way. We know that graduates are not created instantly. We know that there is a process for that, and so building in metrics that support student success along the way was utterly crucial. Part of the process now was to make all of this much, much simpler than it was before. The formula that we had in the past was very complicated. Higher education is complicated, but it wasn't that complicated. And so we wanted to make sure that the formula itself was much clearer, much more straightforward. This then allows both institutions and also decision makers across the state to really understand where the money is going and how it is that the money which is appropriated really is going to then support the work on our campuses in educating the future workforce for Louisiana. Part of that then is making sure that the money follows the student. In the past, as you might imagine, there is a large amount of money. Some of that money goes to our 2-year institutions. Some of that money goes to our 4-year institutions. It is now the case in a very clear way that those dollars follow where it is that the students are enrolling. The more students who go into one system or another system, the money itself will then follow those students. As Elizabeth has pointed out, there are those two components to the formula overall, both the base part, which allows our institutions on an ongoing basis to have some level of stability, but an increased emphasis on outcomes. I think we all know that we really want to incent our campuses to make those hard transformational decisions to be able to move forward with the work we want them to do. Part of that is then increasing the emphasis on outcomes, and so moving from the 30% outcomes to 35 really does achieve that. And as we've said, we've absorbed that cost part of the model into those other pieces, in and of itself actually substantially simplifying the way that the process happens. We have maintained some important historical features of the formula, which is that it is not the case that the formula rewards institutions for students who are out-of-state students who are enrolled fully online. Of course, it does recognize and reward students who are in-state students and are fully online, but not students who are out-of-state students and are attending fully online. And also, it rewards four-year institutions for bachelor's degrees and above, and rewards two-year institutions for associate degrees and below. And again, that has been a historic part of our formula. The last piece maybe to focus on are two new additions to new changes to the formula that are important. One is a recalibrating of the role of research. It is now the case that research has an allocated part of the formula, which our four-year institutions would then receive a portion of, but that is now a controlled portion. In the previous iteration of the formula, research was not limited, and then in that sense, the role of research began to grow disproportionately large in the way that the formula was calibrated. And then the last feature, which I think is a really important feature, is that we are now including for the first time what we call validated skills and learnings, short-term workforce credentials, industry-based certifications. This has been an ongoing and enduring part of the role of our two-year institutions, but up until now has not been reflected in the structure of the formula that we had. That has now changed. We are recommending that for the first time those credentials are included in the metrics, and sure enough, will then allow our two-year institutions to be rewarded and supported in that work. So that's the structure of the new formula.
All right. Wow. Thank you guys so much. Are there any questions from our board? Do we have one at the end? Would never do
All
that.
right, let's see. Is it working now? There you go.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. Can you go back to there were a couple of graphics about the changes to the formula? Yeah, the one prior to that, and I guess maybe the next one. I'm sorry. Yeah. So advance one more. Yeah. So that's probably. So the cost factor was allocated among these categories, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand, right? That's what this is meant to represent, right?
That's right.
And I guess the first question I have, and we had a great presentation a minute ago about the data center up in Richland Parish and the needs that we're going to have to provide, the stuff we're going to have to provide to support that. And look, two of the things that we do in the LCTCS system is we do lineman training, right? So the power is flowing across those poles into the place. We do that at several schools, right, Mr. May? And then we do HVAC training, right, which is extremely important to this facility from what I've been told, right? Keeping the whole building cool, keeping the power on and keeping the building cool, two big things. So where do those fit in the formula is my basic question.
Yeah, so it's a terrific question, and actually that is a really important part of the new formula. In the past, actually both of those programs, both the lineman program and the HVAC program, those primarily exist on the non-credit side of the house in that
That's
validated
why I
skills
was
and
asking
learning part.
this.
Yeah, and so that is now absolutely included in the formula, where in the previous iteration it would not have been. And so it's a really important
So even though
new
they're
addition.
non-credit, they're in there because I saw several references to, how do we count those students, right? Because we made the point that the money is gonna follow the students,
Mm-hmm.
but the FTE count and does that capture non-credit students as well?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
'cause I want to be sure of that, because that's obviously, that's a very specific, today's example, but we could list 50 other ones of folks, or we do short-term training. I mean, alignment training is,
That's right.
look, that's 8 weeks. That's not a 3-year deal, that's 8 weeks. HVAC is probably 6 months. I mean, churning folks out, excuse me, we want to make sure that if we're going to do that to support the thing in Richland, that it's recognized in the form, or else we're going to go broke doing it. We'll go broke providing that training to meet the need.
No, you're exactly right, yes. So the way that we do this, and we've had conversations with the data team there at LCTCS. When they report those graduates, they will report to us exactly how long those credentials were. And as you say, they vary quite considerably in length. And then in the way that we calculate that annualized FTE, and sure enough, in the formula itself, those weighted credit hours where, as you say, we will then, just as we do with all of the credentials, adjust according to how long the credentials are. That will be weighed in the formula. Just as you say, a longer credential will weigh more, a shorter credential will weigh less, but each one will be weighed appropriately according to its weight.
And with the changes with the tweaks to the formula, with a standstill budget, the LCTCS system will get more money with these tweaks than they got the year before. Nominal, but still more.
Can we write that down? Do I get that? Do I get that in some kind of
It's
mortgage
recorded.
note payment? Can I get a notary on that real quick?
It's recorded, sir, it's recorded.
Well, again, all joking aside, I mean, that's a concern. And again, we at my end of the table, we tend to be asked to do the things that, again, in our presentation earlier is just another example. A lot of the stuff we're going to be asked to do to provide folks is going to really be short term. It's a very short window, and we embrace and accept that. Don't get me wrong, but if it's not part of the state support through the funding form, we'll literally go broke doing it. Okay, we'll run, and in that part of the world, it's Louisiana Delta that provides service in that part of the world. So Louisiana Delta is a fine institution, but they can't afford to generate 1,500 HVAC technicians and not get compensated under the formula for it. They'll literally go broke doing it. So we can't do that, and that's a concern. I don't want to say it's a concern. We just need to make sure that's funded in the formula.
That's right. Yeah. So those validated skills and learning enrollments and completers are included in that annualized FTE, and they, for the first time, and they are also included in the outcomes part of the formula as well, again, for the first time.
What's the allocation between the 4 years and the LCTCS of that remaining percentage? Is it 75-25? Is it 25% each for the other 3 systems and 25% for the LCTCS? For that balance outside of the base amount?
So the allocation, the way we calculate the allocation between the 2-year institutions and the 4-year institutions is literally based on that FTE calculation. So we calculate the full-time equivalent student population in the 2-year institutions, the full-time equivalent population in the 4-year institutions, and then allocate the money in that appropriate share. So it does actually turn out to be approximately 25% to the 2-year institutions because they have that 25% of FTE, and then about 75% to the 4-year institutions because they have 75% of the FTE. It's not, it's inconvenient, the fact that it's 1 and 3, because it feels like we're just taking 1 and saying it's a quarter of 4, but we're not doing that. It's literally based on that FTE. And of course, over time, if those proportions change, then the money will follow the student, and so the division between the share will also adjust over time.
And that FTE calculation includes the non-credit stuff I was referencing earlier, because
Yes,
again,
sir.
that's a big part of what we do, and there's been years in the past where it wasn't counted, quite frankly.
Correct.
So we want to make sure it's part of it.
That's correct.
It is counted this year. And I did want to add also, Tristan's got a great graph that I love to tout a lot, that talks about 50% of our citizens in Louisiana only have a high school degree. So that leaves a lot of students that we need to reach out to, and a lot of opportunity in our state. And with this new funding formula, your outcomes are what you get paid by, so you eat what you kill. So there's really a lot of opportunity that is given in this funding formula, and something that we certainly appreciate you guys putting forth the work, and for all of our systems for weighing in on this. Everybody was heard. And of course, everybody can't all be winners. There's some good and bad with it, but I think the product that's put out was a really good one, and thank you for your work.
One more.
Motion to approve, and we've got a second by Regent Aubrey. That was quick. Oh, you have a question? Okay, I should have known. What's wrong with me? I should have known you had a question. Okay.
So, I would second the motion to approve, but
Okay.
I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So the first, I thought when we talked about this, it was suggested that we wouldn't run the model unless we had new and more money.
That is correct. Yes, sir. In the past, as is our way, unless we have new funding, we do not run the formula. Right now, at present, we have a standstill budget, which means that even if, with approval of this formula, the formula would not run for fiscal year 26.
For
So-
fiscal year 26.
Yes, sir.
So just making,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that provides, it will provide.
I'm sorry, you're exactly right. So obviously, our chair and we are working hard to ensure we get additional funding.
Yes.
But we run the formula when we get new money. If the governor and the legislature say it's a standstill budget, we stand still and honor their comments on that. And so at this point, the executive budget we expect will be presented without any cuts to higher ed as a standstill budget, but we will be working to get new money so that we can run the formula.
so when we talk about, we're a policy board, new money could be $1, could be 1 million. What would determine new money? What is the baseline?
So we never had a $1 conversation. Obviously, we're thinking about in millions of dollars, but I will say this. Obviously, every time the legislature approves the budget along the way, it comes back to the Board of Regents for discussion, right? So we know how much more the system would benefit if we got 10 million more, if we got 50 million more, if we got 100 million more. And so we are looking for a substantial investment to do the good work that we know the institutions need to accelerate based on meta and other things. So I can't answer the dollar amount, but I will say that is a board discussion.
So there is a possibility that the research number won't change if we don't get new money, because we'll run the old formula.
So, Regent Aubrey, it's always it depends, because the legislature has the ability to do line items based on specific interests. So if the legislature says we want to give you 20 million more in research, we can see, do they want that run through the formula or outside? What's the distribution model? When the legislature says to Supervisor Stevie Smith and to Monty and his team, meta is important, we're giving you $40 million to make sure we have more linemen, more welders. It may be a line item to them, or it may be in the formula. And so it depends on how the legislature puts forth an additional investment.
So, Madam Chair, I mean, my position is, I would welcome to support the new formula, but I think we should be very transparent, because if those institutions are preparing those fiscal year 26 budgets, we don't know until the legislature really, till the governor signs the bill, and whether they're going to be in this formula or the previous formula. And when we come and actually adopt in the fall, pretty much, that's really the next year's budget. I think we should have this conversation so everybody will be aware of what the actual formula, what we're running, so in June or July, whatever that meeting, so it's very clear, this is where we're going. Okay, and then the second.
I'm sorry, Regent Aubrey, to that note, at the June meeting, that is part of, that has been part of our discussion in years past, so.
So in June meeting, I would request that we put the actual what's going to happen, so that they can be prepared. Okay, and then the second question, and I agree. to the gentleman from the community college system. You know, and we've heard a lot of the advocacy and the concerns about those short-term credentialing. But when we're embracing big projects like Meta, you know, we're picking winners and losers, and there are those who benefit. Let's not underscore the value of the short-term and the credentials of value that many of our four-year institutions in specialized areas are also providing that are not going to be funded as a part of this. They're going to be only funded at the community and technical college system level. But when you have, you know, IBM with partnerships at institutions like Northwestern and Southern University at Baton Rouge, you know, Meta's reach is going to be far reaching than just Northeast Louisiana. And there are many of these colleges of business that are providing short-term credentials that are making these graduates even much more of value to their workforce. But they're not going to be recognized as a part of this. I'm understanding it's necessary to give that up for the, you know, the whole is greater than the sum of these parts, but it's not a perfect formula. It's a good formula. But I don't want him to think that only the community colleges are providing these short-term credentials and certification. The LSU has a wonderful program for a lot of these certifications here in Baton Rouge, and it's really across the state. So it's just, they don't need to be left out, especially with some of the new money that we're going to get. Let's think about everybody doing more, especially in AI. Many of these community colleges not going to have the faculty that are credentialed that will give these certifications. They're going to have to partner with our four-year PhD type faculty to do these. So they're going to have to be credentialed and receive some money in some way. So just putting it out there.
You do raise a terrific point, and as you say, this board passed new policy just last year that, exactly as you said, makes it very clear that we want to make sure that that all of the education at every level across our 2-year and 4-year institutions is as rich as it possibly can be. And so incorporating validated skills and learning into the structure of 4-year degrees as well as 2-year degrees and shorter workforce training is a crucial part of this. We do have some projects that we are working on with both 2-year and 4-year institutions to incorporate and enrich curricula in that way. And actually, we were also the recipient of a grant from the National Association of System Heads and Google to actually make Google micro-credentials completely freely available across all of our 28 institutions across the state for this coming year. So there are other ways that we're looking to try to support that work, but we hear you loud and clear. So, okay.
Thank you so much for those points. They're all great points, and it's good problems to have. We look forward to growing and moving as our needs grow and move within the state. So, are you ready to second?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure if I made the ask, so I just want to make sure that we're on record.
Yeah.
That said, senior staff recommends that the board approve the 5-year funding formula model. So.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Regent David and a second by Regent Aubrey. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We've got. Okay. We've got one no in the LSU system. The motion passes. We will certainly be advocating for new money to run the funding formula. We encourage everyone to do the same. And that goes toward investing in our students for the state. Thanks again for your work, Elizabeth and Tristan.
Thank you.
Our next item is the HR 169 Task Force report. The HR 169 Task Force was charged by the legislature to study the faculty and staff recruitment and retention challenges faced by our institution as it relates to the state's retirement options. Understanding this is critical to continue developing talent, as our institutions must remain competitive with other states in attracting the best faculty and staff to educate Louisiana students. This task force sought to better understand the challenges that are provided and recommendations to address these challenges. Ms. Elizabeth Bentley Smith discussed this agenda with us last month, and she will walk us through the final recommendations of the task force. Elizabeth, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Cordell. So as you noted, during the recent legislative session, the Board of Regents was tasked by H.R. 169 to develop a task force to examine ORP and TRSL retirement plans and their potential impact on staff and faculty recruitment and retainment. As we know, higher education is an economic development driver as it trains the workforce, secures research, and strives toward innovation. Therefore, the market for faculty and highly trained staff is national, and institutions seek to remain competitive with other states and private industry. This task force sought to address some of the challenges in recruitment of those personnel. The task force was made up of members representing all 4 of our systems, TRSL, Board of Regents, and an ex officio member from the Legislative Auditor's Office. Over the course of 5 meetings, the task force was asked to search out and share best industry practices, look at other states and what they do, specifically looking within our southern neighbors, and to see how their retirement plans for higher education are managed, and identify and discuss employer contributions in comparison to other states. We were then tasked, of course, with noting any differences in language that any statutes may need, as well as be modified, and provide any recommendations to the legislature. So with that, the 6 recommendations that the task force identified include the following. Adding the verbiage of post-secondary institutions to certain statutes, which will recognize all of the LCTCS institutions and allow for all employee participation in ORP retirement plans should they choose. Increase the decision time to move from ORP to TRSL from 5 to 7 years, aligning with tenure decisions. Provide ORP membership participation on the TRSL board through the creation of an advisory committee of ORP members and adding a member to the TRSL board. Increasing employer contributions to ORP accounts by establishing a minimum employer contribution rate, which is equal to the employee's required contribution. So this would move the rate from 6.2 to 8%, and potentially using the UAL savings to be retained at higher education to offset these costs. Request a legislative study of a phased retirement program. And then finally, revise the TRSL membership eligibility for new hires to make it optional for those who are over 60 years old or those persons who are 55 and older with 40 quarters or more to be able to join Social Security as opposed to TRSL requirement. And those were the six recommendations. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Senior staff recommends that the board approves the House Resolution 169 Task Force Report as submitted. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Regent David and Regent Hickson. Any discussions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll move into facilities and property. Chris Herring, Associate Commissioner for Facilities, Planning, and Emergency Management, will guide us through these items. Thank you, Chris.
Good morning. We have 2 items from Facilities and Property this month. The first item is the consent agenda, where we have 5 small capital projects approved since our last committee meeting. For the newer members, small capital projects are those that an institution can undertake on their own as long as the construction cost is $1 million or less. These are standard projects that are approved essentially on a monthly basis by staff and are reported back to the board at a subsequent meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions on a project. Otherwise, we recommend approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
All right. Motion has been made by Regent Aubrey and seconded by Regent Meir. Any discussions? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. The second item involves additions of 3 projects to the Board of Regents approved capital outlay budget recommendation. As Regent Aubrey mentioned, not only do we approve the formula in the fall, the board also approves the annual capital outlay recommendation during the October meeting. At the time of the approval, the projects contained today were presumed to be fully funded and as such did not require inclusion in the recommendation. Since that time, we've had 2 of the bid which came in higher, and the project for the Southern University Law Center, the architects determined before it could go out to bid the funding authority for that project as well. In terms of the specific projects, the ones at Louisiana Tech, the first one is their central steam generator project. They're getting out of the steam generation business up there at Tech and are moving to purchase electricity from the city. This project, it bid around $1.7 million over the original estimate. They're seeking to increase the project by $2.5 million to ensure that they have enough funding to accomplish this project. They tried to value engineer it. It wasn't successful due to the nature of the project itself. The second one is the Athletic Academic Center there at Louisiana Tech's campus. This one had a original construction budget a little over $9 million. The bids came in at $12 million and is currently underway the value engineering process there. So the number that they may or may not require is uncertain at this point, but we want to provide authority in the event they do need to request additional funds. This one has about $4 million in private contributions that have gone towards the project, and the final one is for the construction of a new annex adjacent to the Southern University Law Center. This project is entirely funded by the Law Center with Title III federal dollars, so they're not asking for additional dollars from the state. It's more about providing budget authority during the upcoming session. I'd be happy to answer questions about any of these. Otherwise, we recommend approval of the additions of the projects.
Members, you've heard the recommendations from senior staff. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Second.
May, seconded by Regent Temple. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, just one question.
Sure.
For Chris. Louisiana Tech, we are aware of the budget and the instability pieces. How will the purchase of their energy from the city, what is the analysis financially rather than creating their own?
They're estimating it will save them money. They're generating more steam than what was required, which was basically being released in the atmosphere. So they were spending money on treating the water that's released. It was creating inefficiencies by just generating simply too much. So this should rein that in and reduce the costs associated with that.
Okay. That's it.
Good? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, the motion passes. I also did want to welcome Chancellor Jimmy Sawtell from Central. He's here, so we thank you for coming also. I want to recognize all of our folks for being a part. We will now break for lunch. We will resume at 1 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you then. Chris, thank you so much for your work and for your presentation.
They must want to tell us something.
Okay, we are calling our meeting back to order. Next up is Academic and Student Affairs. Dr. Tristan Denley is joining us again. He's the Deputy Commissioner of Academic Affairs and Innovation. He will present these items. The first item is academic programs. Dr. Denley, you may proceed.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so today I have 4 new academic programs for your consideration. The first 3 are part of an ongoing work of this board, really to try to expand the availability of health-related programs across the state. I know I don't need to persuade you that we need significantly more capacity in all kinds of allied health and health-related fields. In fact, it's going to be kind of the ongoing theme of this afternoon. So the first 3 certainly fit into that realm, and of course all 3 were part of the academic plans that those institutions brought forward at the beginning of the year. The first is a program at Fletcher Technical Community College in radiologic technology. So it is, as are in fact all of these programs, in response to hospital industry partners in that region asking for additional trained personnel. The curriculum will allow graduates to sit for the national board certification around radiologic technology, and also will allow students to specialize in mammography and MRI. Of course, it really will provide significantly more capacity to that region. The closest radiologic technology program is up in New Orleans at Delgado. I know I don't need to persuade you that a program up in Delgado is all fine and dandy, but that's not the region down in Homer and Terrebonne and that area where Fletcher is going to be providing that support. And of course, the program comes with the support of Terrebonne General Health Systems, Ochsner Bioregion, Thibodeau Regional Health Systems. All of those hospitals have been part and parcel of the creation of this program, and so really important addition. The second program is in respiratory care at Sewella Technical Community College. Again, this program is in response to demand from that local area. Actually, there are 4 hospitals within a 15-mile radius of Sewella, and Lake Charles Memorial and Christus St. Patrick both reached out to Sewella and asked them to create a program just like this one to be able to add additional capacity in respiratory care. Again, the graduates will be eligible to sit for the National Board of Respiratory Care credential, and as I say, it really is an important addition to the capacity in that region, and certainly we know that that region in particular, as well as many other regions across the state, really do need additional capacity in having trained personnel in respiratory care. The third proposal is in the North Shore region at North Shore Technical Community College, an AAS degree in patient navigator. And so this is a really new kind of approach to healthcare, and again has been created in partnership with North Shore Healthscape to develop this first of its kind program across the state. This trains people called patient navigators who will help patients sort of navigate the maze of, I was going to say higher education, because that's what I seem to say every day, but no, not maze of higher education, but maze of healthcare, really helping patients to understand what their options are, what their diagnoses are, understand their diagnosis, understand their treatment options, all of those things, which then enable bedside personnel, like nurses, allied health personnel, to actually do their job, as opposed to spending all of their time. Of course, sometimes that means explaining this, but this idea is to train these new people, these patient navigators, to be key stakeholders in enabling that interaction with patients. So again, really interesting new idea, and very much in support of healthcare in that region. The fourth degree today is at Southern University A&M, and this is in a BA in Digital Media Arts. And so this is specifically to train people to have the training to work in all kinds of digital media. I know I don't need to persuade you that across the world and across our state, digital media is an incredibly expanding area, and this program will have 5 areas of concentration: digital screen arts production, digital performance fusion, visual arts and motion graphics, digital sports production, and recording arts. So it really does provide a really broad set of options to students at Southern to get training in all kinds of software and industry related skills to be prepared to work in all of the different kinds of digital media. And so those are the 4 degree programs I'd like to bring today. And senior staff certainly recommend approval of all 4 of those academic programs. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve this item? This is Regent Sterling, second.
Second.
Regent Reeves, okay. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, is there anyone from these programs
They
in the
are, yes,
audience?
certainly, sir. Yep.
Okay, just wanted to acknowledge. What school? Fletcher? Fletcher.
North Shore, Fletcher.
Sewell.
And we have folk at Southern at the back.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, I wanted to.
And thank you for the work that you're doing. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item up for debate, or the next item is an update on the NCI designation and the presentation on the new research center for the comparative oncology at Louisiana State University and A&M. And for those who are not used to our acronyms, NCI is the National Cancer Institute. Dr. Denley, please introduce our guest and proceed.
Yeah, so really happy to have our guest today, Dr. Lucia Mila, who's going to give us an update about where we are in achieving this really important designation. So, Dr. Mila, thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm going to go fast on the slides because I understand we're late on the schedule, but I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions. So I don't need to tell this audience why we need to have an NCI-designated cancer center in Louisiana. We're at the center of a large area where cancer, both incidence and mortality, but especially mortality, are highest in the nation, and yet there is no designated cancer center in the 3-state area covering Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. The statistics can be found on the Louisiana Tumor Registry's website, so I'm not going to bore you with them, but the bottom line is that we have worse incidence and mortality from several common malignancies than the average of the United States, and this is across ethnicities and rural and urban areas. To meet this challenge, we have partnered with LCMC Health, and together, a few years ago, we created the LSU LCMC Cancer Center, which I have just taken on the directorship of. LCMC has committed a significant amount of funding, $10 million a year for 5 years towards NCI designation, and so has the Health Sciences Center. We have conducted listening sessions with physicians, one-on-one and in groups. We have identified needs for additional clinical space for goals, to achieve our goals. We have appointed a cancer service line director. This is Dr. Amelia or Amy Jernigan. We're developing a high-risk cancer clinic at UMC, at University Medical Center, and LCMC Health is supporting numerous recruitments that are ongoing. Chief of Hematology Oncology, we're interviewing one of the 2 finalists tomorrow, a thoracic surgeon, director of cancer genetics, neuro-oncologist, and HIV malignancies expert. The latter should be joining us from Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle. What are the priorities to get to NCI designation? There are themes, and this is cancer health disparities, obesity and metabolism, viruses, infection and inflammation, drug development, prevention and survivorship, and risk factors that are unfortunately common in Louisiana, obesity and metabolic diseases, use of tobacco, rurality, it's a long conversation, but we have shown, looking at data nationally, that rurality itself is a risk factor for poor outcomes in cancer and other chronic diseases. Of course, financial toxicity and environment. These are the cancers, lung, breast, gynecologic, genitourinary, gastrointestinal, and virus-induced, for which the disparities are most acute, and the case numbers are high. What do you need to do to get to NCI designation? First of all, you need an absolute minimum of $10 million per year in direct funding, of which at least 50% has to come from NCI. In reality, you need about double that. The University of Illinois at Chicago, which is one of the places where I worked in the past, I was in that cancer center as well, just received a potentially fundable score, and they're at about $25 million direct. This is where the competition is. We need to have a regional and national scientific impact. We need to have a minimum of 3 programs. A program is a group of investigators focusing on a theme. And these investigators need to be working with each other and with the other programs. All of this needs to be documented. It's not just about having grants. We need to show that these people that we recruit, or we already have, are in fact working together, and that the sum is greater than the parts. We need to have a clinical trial office, and we need to accrue a minimum of 10% of our patients to cancer clinical trials a year. This is one big way in which designated cancer centers do help treat cancer. And by the way, we're going to need those patient navigators that you just heard about. Just wanted to make. And we need to have shared resources that are used by funded investigators. What the NCI grant actually funds is the shared resources. So if you don't have the investigators that use them, there's no reason for them to fund them. That's the logic. And there are 6 essential characteristics which I have listed here verbatim from the recurrent RFA for NCI cancer centers. I am not going to read them to you. You have the slides. But you have to meet all these 6. Where do we stand now? We have a total of $14 million in peer-reviewed funding, a grand total of $17 million. However, not all of this counts one-on-one towards NCI designation. What counts is calculated by the NCI based on a formula that investigates how relevant that grant is to cancer. So you can have a grant on obesity that mentions the word cancer. That will count, but not for 100%. So what we have right now, as per NCI, by its own calculations, right before he left, Dr. Ramos had that meeting with the head of the Cancer Centers Division at NCI, and I then met with him last Friday. We are a little over 10 million. So we're just at the point where we're eligible to apply. We need to do better than that, but this is an important step. We have a number of recruitment efforts going on. Again, you can read them as well as I can. And several of these persons are going to join us. In fact, we're soon about to have a problem that it's a good problem to have. We're about to run out of space. And fortunately, the Health Sciences Center is remodeling our medical education building to create over 90,000 square feet of high-quality space by next year. What are the unique resources that we bring to NCI? We've got 2 strong viral oncology research programs. BATON, ROUGE, and New Orleans are in the top 5 cities in the United States for HIV incidence. So HIV-associated cancers are a Louisiana priority. We have Pennington. The second, and according to some first, risk factor for a majority of cancers is obesity, and specifically this metabolism, type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. There are about 14 cancers that are demonstrated to be associated with obesity, and we are the center of the obesity epidemic in the United States. Pennington studies obesity, and it is a member of our cancer center. And the School of Veterinary Medicine, with the program you have just heard, Comparative Oncology, This is truly unique. Our School of Veterinary Medicine is a national resource. There is a strong cancer program, and they are studying cancers. This isn't about just using animals for research. It's about studying cancers in animals as sentinels for cancers in humans. Additional unique resources are the NCORP, the National Cancer Institute Oncology, Community Oncology Research Program, which reaches 50 clinical sites within the state of Louisiana, the Tumor Registry, which has once again won the award for top quality in data in the country, as well as having the authority to request biospecimens from any hospital in Louisiana. The ag centers that are providing assistance to improve quality of life. For example, they provide instructions on healthy eating, cooking, and education with 4-H. And the School of Nursing, again, as you've heard, we do need more healthcare professionals in the state of Louisiana, not only nurses, but also every kind of allied health profession. And this is one way that we're going to be able to train more of them, not only in clinical research, but also in healthcare. I applaud, even before I took on this job, I applauded and still do the effort by President Tate and Provost Haggerty to expand our footprint in data science and artificial intelligence. AI can read mammograms, it can read slides, it can talk to patients explaining to them cancer outcomes better than I can. All these things we need to be at the forefront of. And so we've already partnered with the main campus on AI. Last year I had the pleasure of training a number of very promising undergraduates in computer science in creating an AI algorithm that stages cancers. This was published. It was just the beginning of what I really want to expand for our cancer center. I'm sure you've seen the news about the launch of DeepSeek, that a Chinese company has generated a large language model that appears to be faster and was cheaper than ChatGPT. This is where that sends tech stocks tumbling. So this is a Sputnik moment. We need to be at the forefront of data science. Data science is fundamental to cancer research, and this is where the main campus is playing an important role. These are the specific disease or groups that we've already formed. We have formed a protocol review and monitoring committee. We've got individual disease coordinators, and we have, with the help of our consultants at Huron, we have acquired documentation tools and operations. I've already told you that we're at the center of a network of clinical trials that covers the entire state. We are in the process of procuring a CTMS, a clinical trial management system that's going to be owned by LSU, and that will allow us to track participation, enrollment, funding, and billing for all clinical trials that we lead. Action plan is continue focus on recruitment, increase grant funding through a variety of pilot programs that we have, retreats and collaboration. Collaboration is a key to this, and I will expand on it if you want to hear about it. Implement the next phase of clinical trial infrastructure. I told you about ENCORE and the creation of disease-specific review teams and the operationalization of our phase 1 unit directed by Dr. Xiaoqing Tang. Expand NCI adherence and impact of the shared resources with our Associate Director for Shared Resources, Dr. Adamek. We are actively working with a variety of philanthropy organizations, including the Al Copeland Foundation and several others. And as I said earlier, we're going to have a large amount of space, research space available in 1 year. This is something that was made public by Senator Cassidy a few days ago. The Al Copeland Foundation was recommended for funding of a large grant $7.8 million to fund something called a virtual research nurse. This is a digital program that assists enrollment of patients in cancer clinical trials across the state. It's something for which we have actually taken the lead nationally. This is what the application is going to be like. Again, you can read this as well as I do. As I said, I've already met with Dr. Tack, the director of the Office of Cancer Centers at the NCI. We're working with Huron on a regular basis. I'm meeting with them as soon as go back to New Orleans. And I'm going to stop here and be happy to take any questions.
I'm sure we have lots of questions. Shemaya?
Good afternoon, Dr. Miele.
Yes, that's...
I guess simple questions. Do you have an endpoint in sight where you have a roadmap to when you would get an NCI designation? And then the second question is, what specifically happens when you get that NCI designation?
My expected endpoint is 20 million direct, because you can always lose an investigator or have turnover or somebody retires or somebody loses their funding, plus that's where the competition is. So we're at 10 as calculated by the NCI. We need to double that. What happens when you get NCI designation is two things. You get a grant from NCI, which is not in and of itself a very large amount of money. It's $1.5 million per year. But you become eligible to support a whole host of cancer clinical research initiatives that only designated cancer centers can apply to. The next thing that happens is, of course, you become a destination. And this is where our grand plan is, after we obtain funding the first time around, is to expand our membership to other health systems in Louisiana to truly become a magnet for cancer patients, both for care and for research throughout the state. A good example that I can give you is Moffitt in Florida. Tampa, Florida was not a particularly interesting location until the Moffitt Cancer Center became designated and eventually comprehensive. Now that has an estimated ROI of about $1.2 billion a year. So that's really where we're going with this. We want to create an environment that's favorable to biotech, to technology business, to companies that may want to locate here to work with us. It's not just about the grant.
So I just want to follow up on, what's your real timeline for your first application?
What I can tell you today is approximately 5 years, everything else staying constant. If we don't have another pandemic, if we don't have another major emergency like that, we should be able to be there in about 5 years. The reason why I'm vague is because I don't have all the variables under control. As you know, there were just an announcement that every federal grant has been paused for review. Now, I am not particularly worried about that because I don't see cancer or Louisiana to be the target of that. Nevertheless, it's going to delay us a little bit. So, but that's my range.
What can Regents do to, what are your biggest gaps? Where do you need the greatest support?
We need to achieve uniformity across the different sites with technologies and things like regulatory services, IRB. One of the reasons why I want to purchase Encore is because Encore is produced by Advara. Advara also has a central IRB that I have worked with for some of my clinical studies. The three sites could be using the same IRB. That shows that we're working together instead of each campus having its own system and not working with the other campuses. That's the sort of thing that also the team at Huron that's been advising the main campus has recommended. So I'm not saying anything that, that is earth-shattering, but we do need all these campuses to work together towards an application that really is unique. And so that's where the Board of Regents can be of tremendous assistance.
Any other comments?
Thank you so much for your presentation. I know everyone here and everyone listening has been impacted by cancer, and so I wonder, as we think about the ability to address prevention and better treatment, survival, tell me, how does the NCI designation and the quest for the NCI designation mean better results for our loved ones in our state?
So one of the necessary components of NCI designation is a program on prevention. And early diagnosis is still the best way to beat cancer. This is led by Donna Williams from our School of Public Health, who also leads the Louisiana breast and cervical cancer screening program. We need to expand that to other cancers that are preventable or diagnosable early by screening, such as colorectal cancer. That is key. Simply finding treatments for very advanced cancers isn't necessarily what we should be specializing in. What we should be specializing in is how do we get fewer people to be diagnosed with cancer, especially at a later stage.
Yeah.
And that is part, it's actually required for NCI designation.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Mile, for that comprehensive report on the importance of the NCI designation. You have quite a few healthcare representatives that are on this board, and we are very glad to hear about your research. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you for your time.
Members, are there any other questions? All right, thank you. And Tristan, you may proceed. Thank you.
So part of this work is, as Dr. Mile recognized, the work that LSU Health Sciences is doing with the vet center. So part of the presentation today is the proposal for those two entities to come together to create a new Center for Comparative Oncology. As Dr. Mile recognized, this is the center which I think we've long understood that often animals are involved in the study of cancer, but this is a new approach to that. This is about using the techniques and the expertise at the Vet Med Center to study cancer in animals and then learn lessons from what it is that they see in animals to then understand how that can inform the treatment and the health care that we can provide to human patients. So this is a really crucial element of the overall picture, which I think you've heard pretty compellingly today. So with that, senior staff certainly recommend the approval of this research center as presented.
Members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve it.
Regent Hickston, Chip Glazier, okay. It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much, Tristan. Is there any other business to come before the committee?
Just one short item to add today. I think we've long had a conversation in the fall about ways in which on an ongoing basis we monitor and review the programs that our institutions offer. And so as part of that work in the fall, first of all, we asked 29 of the programs that are under ongoing review to provide an interim report because of the fact that we really wanted to make sure and understand the steps that they are taking to make sure that they are on track to be able to provide a successful number of graduates. As well as that, we have another 128 programs that we have contacted because of the fact that on an ongoing basis, the number of graduates that they produce has not met the kind of production benchmarks which we expect for a successful program. Those programs are providing those reports and recommendations for the future of those programs. That may be closing that program down. That may be making some substantial changes to the way the program operates. It may be consolidating those programs, but we are right now receiving and analyzing what it is that we have from the campuses. And I look forward to bringing some recommendations to you in March based on what it is that we have heard from the campuses.
Okay. Thank you for that information, Dr. Denley. We look forward to the next update. Next up is Planning, Research, and Performance, Deputy Commissioner for Strategic Planning and Student Success, Dr. Susanna Craig, will present the next item, the consent agenda, which includes licensure applications of 2 out-of-state academic degree granting institutions. Dr. Craig, please proceed.
Yes, there we go. Pretty loud. Let's see. There we go. We have 2 academic degree granting institution for our new members. One of the things that we do here at the Board of Regents is we license out-of-state institutions who would like to operate in the state of Louisiana. And we don't have that many of them, but we do have a few, and they want, and they have to be licensed to operate here. In many instances, it is because they offer a face-to-face component over the number of 10. So as you see here, we have 2, Herxing University, which is out of Madison, Wisconsin. They are a separate entity. They operate schools in 8 states, or Herxing University operates schools in 8 states, and they have a location in New Orleans. And so one of the things that they are doing is offering a hybrid surgery technology program in the New Orleans area, and their labs they're taking, it's an online program, but all of their labs are face-to-face. And so Herxing University Madison needs to be licensed to operate here. They are accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. Lake Erie College is located in Painesville, Ohio. This particular institution is new, but they've been operating in the state of Louisiana for quite some time under the SARA Reciprocity Agreement, which is the State Authorization Reciprocity Agreement. They are currently in a state where that they're in between their state renewing reciprocity, and they wanted to make sure that their 23 students could continue in the program. So they've gone through the process to become licensed in Louisiana. They offer 2 education programs, one in elementary education, one in intervention specialist, and they will be student teaching in their district where these students are located. And so senior staff recommends approval of the items on the consent agenda. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Okay.
Dr. Craig, do we require them to tell us on the surgical technician program who their local facility is?
Each of these programs has to provide us with information. They have a complete packet. I don't see it in here. Courtney, are you in the room?
I think just for consideration, I'd love Dr. Shamia to comment. A surge tech program without really being next to the physician and knowing that you understand the instruments and all those kind of makes my radar go up. So
Yeah.
just be interested to understand that clinical practicum component of that, really for employability of the student, not safety and employability of the student. So just maybe as a side, you all can.
Sure.
Yeah, I believe they are doing a clinical in addition to the field experience. So my understanding is they would absolutely be next to that physician during the clinical.
So it says a local healthcare facility, so it really probably depends on where the student is located in the state and who this institution has a contract with to allow them to work there or have this practicum, just like if it would be an online teacher who has to do a student teaching experience, but they happen to live in Lake Providence, that particular student, the institution would have to contract directly with them. We can find that information for you.
So my comments are really just the difference in an experience. So just say if you're at Fran U and you're rotating through, or you're at a school that's associated with Oxford's main campus and you get to go through 10 different ORs, every type of specialty, versus I'm a student who now potentially might have to find my own preceptor. Just understanding the mechanics of that, and we can do that offline.
Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're happy to share that information. We can get that for you.
Yeah. Who they're contracting with. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the agenda items?
So moved.
Regent May.
Second. I'll
Second, Regent Hickson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you.
Next up is the Teacher Recruitment, Recovery, and Retention Legislative Report. Dr. Craig will guide us through the success as well as the innovative work being done to keep our best and brightest educators here in the state. Dr. Craig, you may proceed.
Thank you. So just to let you know, in 2021, the legislature mandated that the Board of Regents oversee a task force on teacher recruitment, retention, and recovery here in the state. After 2 years, we worked on this very closely with the Department of Education and a representative group as identified by the legislature in that resolution to work on ways to study declining enrollment in the state in our teacher preparation programs, review strategies and best practices for keeping our teachers in the classroom, and then proposing new strategies to increase employment opportunities for those students. In 2023, this particular task force was extended for an additional 2 years, and we've seen some real significant shifts over the course of the last 4 years that we've been working in this arena. There's been increased access to programs across the state. There has been stronger preparation for our aspiring teachers, including those in high school who've just raised their hand and said, I want to be an educator. And then we've increased retention in the classroom of those students, those teachers who are already certified and in the classroom. There's great news for me to share over the course of the last 4 years. There's been an increase in 843 certified teachers just over the last year. And to be certified, that means you've also passed your praxis exam, which is your licensure exam. We have over 1,724 high school students in our pre-educator pathway who are working in high schools, in our high schools. They have raised their hand and said, I want to be a teacher, I want to be in education, and they are earning dual enrollment credit from those very early education courses while they are still in high school. We have a paraprofessional, which is a paraprofessional is like a teacher's assistant in the classroom. Many of those, in fact, most of those paraprofessionals only have a high school diploma. We have a paraprofessional to a certified degreed teacher model that we have 597 students in. Many of them have been identified from other employees that are, say, working in a school setting but didn't have the full degree, and they're able to work in the school setting while they are earning their bachelor's degree. We have had an increase of 1,085 credentialed mentors across the state. So we've gone, really the total number of mentors that we have right now are 3,718, which provides opportunities for our residents, or many of you might have remembered the term student teacher. We now call them residents because they are in the classroom for a year with that mentor teacher, and we now have more credentialed mentors providing space for those aspiring teachers. And then there's also an Aspiring Principal Fellows program. In this particular cohort 2, they are in cohort 2, and 88% of those individuals are actually working in leadership positions across the state. So if you look at our trends, I'd like for you to, you see there's a very long downward trend which prompted these resolutions, basically stop the bleeding, if you will. And if you look at the 21-22 school year is where we bottomed out, if you will, and we are on the rise. And so again, very excited to share with you this upward trend that we are seeing from the news that we are getting of the 23-24 data is that we are continuing to be on the rise. And we are excited about some of the things that have put in place to ensure this increase. In part due to the recommendations of the task force. This task force has worked very hard to recommend actionable items for the legislature to act upon, but for our teacher preparation programs to implement to see about this increase. So in recruitment, again, I've mentioned some of these already, but one thing for me to note here for you is in the 2021 year, only 80% of our population of teachers were fully certified. Now we're at 88%, again, on the rise, really making an effort to ensure that those students who are in our teacher preparation programs are getting not only the content that they need, but the licensure exam preparation, so that when they go to take their licensure exam, they're passing them on the first try. A couple of initiatives to create this robust pipeline. You'll see the paraprofessional to teacher model that I spoke about. The pre-educator pathway, which is it's so exciting to see, and it's truly growing, having more of our high school students actually enter the teaching profession, or when they go to our post-secondary institutions, they are signing up to be in education programs. And the Department of Education has also issued some praxis vouchers for those certified teachers who might be teaching out of area. And so that might be you are certified in biology, but your high school only has one certified science teacher, and so they really need you to teach that chemistry class as well. And so the department is providing vouchers for these teachers to take the praxis exam in, say, chemistry, so that they can also be fully certified. For recovery efforts, there have been many. We are working very hard on a registered apprentice model in teaching. There is a pilot going through southeastern Louisiana this year. We are working with the Louisiana Workforce Commission to have this identified and to allow those residents who are working for a full year in the classroom to be eligible for apprenticeship dollars. So rather than at this point in time, a resident is getting about a $2,000 stipend, and it's their full senior year in college. It has been difficult for some of our working families, or for our families with young children who want to be an educator to say, okay, I can't work because I've got to be a resident. And so we've been actively working to create this apprenticeship model so that the residents can earn funds while we are while in this teacher program. And as I said, Southeastern is piloting the program this year, but there is at least 5 or 6 other districts, as well as teacher preparation programs that want to sign on. So more to come on that as I get information. And then finally, some of our retention strategies have truly been led by the Department of Education. Superintendent Kay Brumley created an additional task force called the Let Teachers Teach initiative, which really focused on evaluating the amount of paperwork that teachers have to do, that are separate, apart, and above and beyond of teaching the students in the classroom. And so one of the things that they did was they're ensuring that there's adequate classroom prep time for those teachers, that they are transitioning some of the mandatory trainings like blood-borne pathogens, or well, I don't want to make it up, but basically on an every other year cycle, those trainings that remain the same year after year, they can actually take them on a every other year cycle, as well as providing additional teacher compensation. Our legislature, our governor has really targeted increasing teacher pay and looking at innovative ways to do that. And so that is going to be the number one way that we're going to be able to retain teachers in the classroom. So in conclusion, we're continuing to work through this task force through the end of June of 25, at which time this task force sunsets. However, the work is not going to stop. We have a Teacher and Leadership Initiatives Office within the Board of Regents. We have the Department of Education's certification team. We meet on twice a month to talk about issues that relate to our colleges of education, as well as the teachers and residents that are in the K-12 system. And we are working together to ensure that we are increasing the teacher pipeline and removing barriers to completion, as well as supporting those early teachers while they are in the classroom in those very early years, and then encouraging teachers to stay by increasing teacher pay. So together, we can create a sustainable pipeline of qualified teachers in Louisiana. So we recommend that you receive this report and authorize Regents staff to submit this report to the House and Senate Committee on Education. I'm happy to answer any questions for you. I will note that we have already been invited to the House Ed Committee on February 12th to actually present all of our findings on this report, and we'll do so in February. So happy to answer any questions.
I have just one comment.
Yes.
The para program, I had no idea what that was. So my son got married. He and my daughter-in-law moved back to Rapides Parish. She's a school teacher, and she had a para in her classroom. And so basically my understanding was a babysitter, and that's just not true. And so this young lady that was in her classroom finished her education, and that was in the 23-24 school year, last school year. And so this school year, 24-25, she's now moved into a teaching position, and so it's just changed the economic situation of her life. So great program.
The difference in pay is probably $30,000 a
huge.
year. It's
Absolutely.
and the paraprofessional who got a degree was able to work
Yes.
while earning their degree. We think it's a fabulous program.
It's a great program. I had the opportunity to visit with this lady who had grown kids now, and so she kind of went back to receive her degree, and teaching was kind of her passion. So it was to hear the passion that she has to talk about the program, and especially being there at the end where she wrapped it up and is now a teacher. It was just it was a very interesting program I didn't know existed. So it was really neat to see what you're doing in that area and how that works.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's a fantastic program.
Quick question, is there a source to understand like that significant decrease in students, where are we producing teachers now? So we think about our high end.
Are you looking, tell me which slide you're looking at.
And then 74, so we go from in 2012 to
It's a decline
2013, we were producing 2,600 teachers to now, even with the rebound, at 1,776.
Yes. So some of that has to do with, some of it is, social's not the right word, but the national decline in respect of the teaching profession. Nationally, fewer and fewer students were entering colleges of education to become teachers. One of the effects has been in comparison to the lower salary for a teacher in comparison to other professions that you need a bachelor's degree to enter. There have been significant changes in licensure exams.
Right.
And to be certified, you must pass that licensure exam. And so what we've seen is our colleges of education, those, we call them teacher preparation programs, becoming so much more intentional about this exam prep. and providing opportunities for students to, train's the wrong word, but be coached in how to take exams, so they're eligible to pass these practice exams. We've got a real strong connection with the Department of Education, whereas they've instituted a marketing campaign, be a teacher. And so I just think there's been some strategies that we've used within the last 3 or 4 years, some of this due to this task force. I'll give you a good example. One of the very first things that this task force recommended, and the legislature agreed and changed the policy, as that these candidates did not have to take the Praxis 1 exam. And the Praxis 1 exam is a core exam for the equivalent of, like, say, the ACT. So they were having to take an ACT to get into the university or the college, but then they could not enter the program until they passed another exam to get into the program. Well, we're the only, it's the teaching profession it was the only one that you had to take another exam to be eligible to enter. So they were being knocked out of the teaching profession before they ever started taking those courses, and were being trained by our professionals, the experts in the teaching field, to get them where they needed to be to pass the licensure exam. So I think there's a lot of strategies that have pointed towards that.
But specifically what I'm interested in is who lost those 800 students?
Okay, so it would be this is statewide.
Right.
So that's the 14 different teacher preparation programs in the state.
So we can get that for you.
We can get it
by
for
campus.
you. It depends. If you'll just provide for me what years you want that data, we'll have to look into the enrollment trends, the completion trends for each of those years.
That's what I'm looking for.
We can absolutely do that. The other thing is we'll show you the alternative certification programs that have tended to increase in enrollment.
Yes.
So we'll get that for you as well, to your original question of where are they going.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I would be curious also of that information. Madam Chair, a few months ago we had a presentation, Ms. Ellis.
Yes.
Who has a program, it's not through one of the universities. It's
Delta.
Through Delta. And they do a similar, they just had their first class of students to complete their alternate certification
It's been
process.
very successful.
Very successful. Most of these students are in rural areas.
Yes.
While I do recognize that the progress has been made in terms of getting certified teachers, I'm still hearing that in some of the very rural, poor parishes, there's still a much greater percentage of uncertified teachers. We're talking 30–40% in places.
That's correct.
I don't want to even call the parishes because I could be wrong. But, I would be interested who's going to continue to work in those areas. I talked to the superintendent of Richland Parish. Of course, things are certainly going to change.
Yes, they are.
In his area.
Yeah.
And where they are in terms of compensation and things of that nature, they're excited because they're going to be the leader in Northeast Louisiana. I think he was thinking about retiring. He ain't about to retire right now.
Oh, no, they're very excited.
So if I could just add very, very briefly, in fact, this paraprofessional to the professional model, there's a very large focus in the northeast portion of the state. A significant number of these students are in the northeast portion of the state. That particular program is run by the Louisiana Department of Education.
Yeah. And for the fellow board members, there are a couple of parishes at one point had 40% uncertified, or teachers who are certified but teaching classes out of their area of certification.
That's right.
And that's tough for a district.
Yes.
Yep.
Regent Glazier.
Mr. Stratt, could you go to slide 75?
Yes, sir.
I pressed it a couple of times. How about now?
Yeah.
Nope, it's right
It's
here.
on the-
It's the gray button. Oh, nope, it's right there, the gray
There
button.
we go.
Got it, got it.
88% certified teachers. That's just what Regent Aubrey was talking about. I know in the rural areas that's not so. Not so in my area.
Right.
At all.
This information was provided to us by the Louisiana Department of Education as they've been working on kind of a statewide model, but you're absolutely right. It is from parish to parish, depends on the percentage in the parish. We can certainly reach out to them and get that information from them about the number of certified teachers in each parish if they collect that.
Now, you talked about a teacher may be certified, but teaching outside of hers or his field. How would that be classified? As a certified or non-certified?
No, they do collect it. I've seen it. We had a joint meeting with Bessie, and I did request, and I got that information, but I would be curious. It's called out of.
It's out of field.
Out of field.
They're certified, but they have an out of field certification that we can certainly ask about. But much of the work of this particular task force, although the legislature sent it to the Board of Regents to do the work and to lead the task force, the majority of the work surrounding this is happening at the Louisiana Department of Education. Our connection with it is the preparation of teachers on our college campuses.
If there are good models and we can get new money to help those high uncertified areas,
yes,
could there be something that, I think I'm part of the legislative committee, but I would be curious. That is, if we're going to lift up the entire state, I mean, we'll build a broadband, but if we don't have the resources out there and people teaching these students, we've got to figure out a way to do it. So I am interested in that.
We don't ask, the answer is always no.
Thank you.
We have to ask.
Just suggest we probably need to shape, we need to be thoughtful in how we shape the next joint Bessie agenda, because this is the nexus that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is how to make sure that we're working together on the right things that's going to raise the everybody.
That's right. And then we have the one of my favorite programs that I encourage all of our board members to come, the Call Me Mr. program that it started at Grambling, but how many schools is it at now? 5 different schools. It even trickled over into Texas. Is that correct?
Well, it originally began at Clemson in South Carolina, so it's all over the South for sure.
Well, it started
at
Grambling.
We have 5 in 5 universities in Louisiana who have the Call Me Mr. program.
And it focuses on black males going into the classroom. And it's not just about teaching, it's about reaching that student. It's about teaching them discipline, financial literacy. I mean, it gives those young students a mentor. And if you look at the demographics, there's not very many male teachers, and there's certainly not very many black male teachers. And they resonate with that student, and they've just seen that there's great success. So that program is so rewarding. I mean, I encourage everybody to go to Grambling when do they do that? In August? Was it August? I can't remember. All my dates are rolling together. But it is something that's very inspirational, and they're doing great work. Many good things. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you, members. I'm so happy to see the progress that's being made with teachers. It's going to definitely make a difference in our state. And senior staff recommends that the board receive the 2024 Teacher Recruitment, Recovery, and Retention Task Force Report and authorize Regent staff to submit this report to the House and Senate Committees on Education. We have a move by Regent Reeves and May. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, members, next month, the commissioner and staff have been asked to share this information with the House Education Committee, and we will be sure and send you details on that. Thank you, Susanna, for all your work. Appreciate you. And we're getting close to the end. I'm happy to report that we had an excellent time with our student leaders in Washington, D.C. The congressional delegation, board members, and so many others were present. I would like to give a huge attaboy to our very own Harold Boutte that's there in the back. He won't sing his own praises, but we certainly will. This is his 23rd year to take these SGA presidents and executive staff to Washington, D.C. They cannot say enough great things about Harold. He thinks about everything, even down to the hotel that he books them in to make sure that there's a grocery store next door, because boys tend to eat a lot. And he definitely plans for that, as well as organizing a pizza party, scheduling visits with Senate and congressional staff, and even a very special trip to the Library of Congress. So Harold, certainly, he's hospitable to us and to our students. We're proud of you, Harold. Thank you for all that you do. Unfortunately, the snow delayed some of the arrival of the SGA presidents, but boy, that was some great information that we got from students on things that we need to do. I mean, I would love to invite the SGA presidents to some of our meetings. There were some little nuggets that we gleaned from that we definitely need to talk about with student advising, and just some things that we typically don't think about as board members, but those students, it's certainly on their radar. And next we will have our very own student advisor, our student representative, Ms. Kennedy Orr. She will give her report.
Hi, everyone. First of all, happy to be back in spring semester. I know the snow kind of delayed us a little bit, but just glad to be back in the classroom. It's all melted away now. I was one of those people that was late to the DC trip, unfortunately. But it was so good to see just how excited that everyone was that got to go, interacting with the different congressional leaders, Senate leaders, and things like that. I was able to make the Capitol trip. We got to go in the chamber, speak to the majority leader of the House, and just have some open and honest conversations about, the different things that are going on, questions that we had, whether it was related to Louisiana specifically or just history about the chamber, and things of that nature. So very excited for our next meeting. We'll be meeting in Alexandria next month on February 21st through the 22nd. And hopefully within that meeting, we'll be able to talk more about this new funding formula and just kind of explaining to all the SGA presidents what's that going to look like for their institutions, and how they can be, progressive in making sure that their institutions are meeting those benchmarks that come with the funding formula. And also, we're in a time where we're trying to figure out what's going on with the federal funds and things of that nature. So just making sure that our student body presidents are just aware of what the state of the world is right now, how this will impact our institutions, and of course educating them on what things like the Board of Regents does, and how we have people that are truly out there advocating for higher education and making sure that even though some things may not be going how we would like to, we have people on our side that are making sure that we are seeing those true benefits of what funding does for institutions, so that we can graduate more people, because degrees get the bills paid. So very excited to just continue working with everybody, and hopefully, making sure that people understand, the Regents is doing great work. Very excited to be a part of it, excited for what we are going to do in these coming months, and I appreciate you all.
Right. Thank you, Kennedy, for all that you do. As you can see, there's just some pictures from our DC trip. Like I said, we had some great conversations with all of the students, and we really learned a lot. Also, I would like to say thanks to the Oshner Suite and Christy Reeves, who invited all of our members in, and Pete November, who was also a SGA president. He sat down and really spent a lot of time with these students, just talking about the work that they're doing and how important it is. So I really do think that they got a lot out of this trip, as did we. and that's why I've lost my voice. There's a lot of network, and I say that I didn't even go to a single ball. It was just all the work that was going on. And a few weeks ago, I had a chance to virtually welcome our 3 new board members, which we're very happy to have them here today. And they're going to be great additions to our board. We have Ted Glazier, Dallas Hickson, and Christy Oliver Reeves. Little fun fact for you guys, and it's a cool fact to share. With the appointment of Regent Christy Oliver Reeves, we now have the very first father-daughter duo to serve on the Board of Regents. Christy's father, Bill Oliver, was a regent from 2002 to 2004. So we made some history today. So congratulations. We know that her dad would be so proud of her appointment and that she will do a great job.
And for those that don't know, the reason why she asked me to stand with her, there's a very close connection between me and Bill Oliver in a sense. He is a long-time beloved former president of AT&T Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
And so did a lot of great work, certainly planted the seeds for a lot of love, certainly contributed a lot, represented us to help facilitate a lot of endowed chairs at many of the universities across the state. So I was proud to stand and represent with her today.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Well, we're set up for success, guys. That seals it. That concludes all of my comments. Commissioner, do you have some things to say as well?
I sure do. Thank you so much. Very excited to have new board members and new board leadership and work with all of you. And I'm always proud of our student member, Regent Orr. The sky's the limit when you hear these students speaking. Our chair and I had an opportunity to really visit with a lot of students last week, and it was just fantastic. So I will zoom us through a couple of things because I know I stand between you and the exit door. You all heard me talk about Ms. Shaw and just a wonderful story of the dedication of teachers. We just talked about our teacher report. 51 years teaching, came out of retirement to teach chemistry, 80 years young. And David Begnaud did a story about her. As you know, David is one of Louisiana's own, a fantastic storyteller for the nation. And so just wanted to share this wonderful story. I think the clip has been sent to you. We're going to invite Ms. Shaw to come and speak to the future educators this year about her dedication to teaching. So just fantastic there. The next is, we talk about our pathways to prosperity and how do we really promote this. Shout out to our comms team that met with all of the system comms to talk about these statewide campaigns. So now every Wednesday, we'll talk about Workforce Wednesday and what we're doing, Meta and all of these projects, and then Talent Development Thursday to talk about the talent we are developing in our state. LCTCS on Sunday, I don't know if you all saw in the paper, had an ad about the transforming of the workforce in healthcare. And so all of our systems are focused on trying to make sure we're messaging about the importance of the work we do and how it touches the future in our workforce. So stay tuned, and as you have stories to share, please share those so we can continue to promote those as well. You saw we mentioned, and thanks to Senator Cassidy and Congressman Fields, last week they noted that NSF had awarded $8 million to the Board of Regents as we continue to work on STEM research across the state. And so this initiative will work with LSUA, Tech, Southern A&M, and UNO. But we'll also be working, obviously, with our K-12 partners, Dr. Kansari and others. So stay tuned. Once we get the federal funding flowing again, stay tuned for more on that. And then finally, I'm excited in, I believe, a month, I'm looking at them, to be speaking at South by Southwest EdU Conference. So our panel topic is, do students and society still value higher education? And I've been asked to serve on a panel with Gallup, and they're going to be sharing their research around the number of adults who still say that high school credentials, or credentials beyond high school rather, are important. But obviously, this conversation is an important national discussion. How do we position the value of our talent development, and how do we continue to make sure people understand that the advantage goes to the individual with the credential? And it's our job to continue to advocate for that fiercely and urgently for all of our people. And so I'm excited to be a part of this conversation. More to come on that. As soon as they release the Gallup report, I will make sure we all have a copy of it. And with that, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? All right, hearing none. Members, looking ahead, we do not meet in February. Our next meeting will be March the 26th at 9 a.m. Doreen, do we have any public comments? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We got two down here. We've got Regent Glazier and Regent Meir. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.